Hey, 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 welcome to this episode of Pushing Through, where we show mothers and their adult daughters how to connect, engage, and have fun. Mamas, your responsibility to nurture the relationship with you and your child does not end at age 18. It surely does not. I am Nicole.
I'm Andrea. This week, we're talking about parents of adult children and how they be on that BS.
BS? What are you saying? Like, we are not on that BS. Parents are perfect.
I said what I said.
We are perfect, and like we do no wrong. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
All right, y'all. So let me give you some backstory on this. Back in February, me being me, scrolling through Facebook, as as always, I'm always looking and seeing what's going on. That's how I get my news. I don't watch TV. I came across a video that Pastor Kimberly Ervin had posted, and it was by this TikToker named Deja Blue, and she went in. I was like, what in the world? I want y'all to see this video. So we're going to pause for a second so you can take a look at it. It's only 2 minutes, so hold on. Let's watch it.
Parents of adults, if you're asking yourself, why does my child not talk to me? Do a self-evaluation. Did I have positive, healthy communication with my child while they were in the home? When they were coming up, did I have positive, proactive, non-judgmental, open communication with my child? Or was 90% of the time I spent talking to my child reprimanding them for doing something I didn't agree with, or that I said was wrong, or ordering them to do something, or criticizing them? Were you an emotionally safe space for your child? Y'all will go through your children's diaries, go through their phone, and weaponize their vulnerability. You will weaponize their only safe spaces. When my child told me something, or when my child had a moment of weakness or fall back or fuck up, because kids do that, did I keep it my child's business and handle it in-house and have it be a growing learning moment? Or did I blast it to the family for the daily gossip? Yeah, you won't believe what Johnny just did. Johnny just told me. Your child hears that. And what they learn is, I can't trust my parent. I can't trust my parent is what they learn. Did your child hear you ridiculing or putting down people who looked like them, talked like them, believed the way they believed? And you wonder why your child won't take initiative to talk to you now that they don't have to. You know why your kid doesn't talk to you. You know why.
I think she spoke facts.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even lie. I think you're right. I think she came with it, even though that hurt my feelings because I'm a parent and I know that there have been, incidents.
Hit dog taller. Yep. Anyway. Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I did when I seen the video was send it to her. Because of course she has been parented, by me and her father. And I was like, ooh, do this resonate? And then the second thing I did was, holler at our producer, Kwame. And I was like, I think we need to have Pastor Ervin join us on the episode because I want to talk to her about why she posted it and like all of that. So, we were able to make it happen. And we're going to bring her on right now.
Hey.
Hey. So excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
You done started something? Before we go too far into it, can you please introduce yourself to our audience and tell them who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I'm Kimberly Ervin. Also known as co-pastor Kim Ervin of Church One in Long Beach. But besides all that, I am a mom, a wife of 36, almost 37 years, mother of 4. I have one granddaughter who's 13 years old. I'm an administrator of 2 offices, foster care offices, foster family agencies, one in Gardena and one in Riverside. And so that's pretty much what I do. The ministry, counseling people, couples, administrating the foster family agency, and still mothering, and being a wife. And I have a puppy too. He's brand new. He's brand new to the family, Red. So that's who I am in a nutshell. That's what I do.
Well, you sound like
I have a show. I'm sorry. What's wrong with me? I have a whole show. 10-minute tips for your relationships. And then also a podcast, Coffee with Kim, all on Pyro Media Network.
Yes, we are Pyro Media Network family. Awesome. Maybe one day we can come on your podcast and
absolutely. Real soon.
Awesome.
Well, so I feel like I already know the answer, but why did you share this video on social? What made you want to share this video on social media?
I saw the video and it made me question myself. So when I saw the video the very first time, I paused and I said, "Ooh, am I guilty?" And I really had to take a step back and go, okay, Kim, think about all these things that this young lady was saying, and it was all very true. And so I had to pause. I didn't put it up right away because I didn't want my kids chiming in and saying, "Yeah, Mom, you be crazy." But I just took a step back and I just thought about my relationship with my kids, my adult children. And at this time, all my children are adults. My youngest she turned 19 in January. And but the others are between the ages of 35 and 29, the other three. And so I thought about it. I was like, "Ooh, am I that parent to adult children?" And even thinking back on when they were younger, what was that relationship like? Yeah. Did I give them opportunities to speak their mind and their hearts? Did I criticize them? All the things that she was talking about. And I knew I wasn't perfect, as a parent,
right.
Especially with that oldest one, because, I always say that's the practice child.
It is.
That's the practice child. That's the one you practice everything on. And I know that to be true because my older kids always say, that youngest one gets away with everything. And I'm like, it's not that. I just didn't know any better when you guys were coming up. I just didn't. And I was doing a lot of things the way my parents did it, thinking that that's the way you do it. And I think what changed for me, honestly, I'll just be honest, what really changed for me and how I was mothering my kids was when I started educating myself. When I went back to college, and you start taking all these psychology classes and all these other things, that, it just kind of exposes you to more information.
Yep.
And the more I exposed myself to information, research and all of that, I realized that there were some things that I was doing wrong, and I changed that. And so the blessing about that, that video was when I decided I could put it up, in clear conscience, because I was willing to take whatever hits that were coming.
Yeah.
And so when I decided to put it up, my kids chimed in and they said the best things that a mom could ever hear, about our relationship, and as it is today, and even when they were coming up, so I knew I hadn't been perfect. And my kids have experienced some things, they've been through some things with me and their dad, but I knew that we did our best and we really always tried to let them have a voice. And so when I was like, "Ooh, coast is clear,"
Yeah, I'll post it now.
I'll post it now, but honestly, I was willing to take the hit but I knew my kids weren't going to out me on social
media.
Yeah. But I knew that if I was guilty of some of those things, I knew that that would be a conversation we would have at home or in private on the phone or whatever. But they said the sweetest things. And I honestly know, Nicole, you know, that I do have a good relationship with my adult children.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think one of the things that came out of watching that video is a lot of opportunity for self-reflection.
Yes.
I actually went back onto TikTok to watch the original video and to look at the comments. And you would be amazed at how many adult children are like, nope, I don't talk to my mama. Ain't talked to her in 6 years. Nope, don't talk to my dad. People were like, can somebody send this to my mom? Can somebody translate this into Spanish and send this to my mom? Like, it was like a lot of people are really, you know, have these issues with their parents and remember how they were parented and how it impacted them. And I think, you know, as quiet as it's kept, sometimes us parents, sometimes we don't get it right. And I think something that you said that was so important is when you know better, you do better. You go to school or college or you have a mentor or someone that can really, you know, help make a parent do better by their kids.
And some parents don't really care to do better, I feel like, too, because it depends on like how that parent, how they are. Because some parents feel like their kids owe them something. Some of them, you know, had kids, maybe didn't want the kids, or they had a bad relationship with the kid's father, which causes resentment, which is, you know, they're like, I don't care about how you feeling. Like, I raised you and you got over your head, so you good. Yeah. And I've heard that happen a lot too. Yeah.
On that TikTok.
Sometimes it's like they'll see that and be like, okay, and you was good. You
survived. You here, right? And
it's like I guess. I know. Fighting for my life still, but thank you.
Right. So Pastor Ervin, what would you say to a parent that maybe saw that video, that whole hit dog holler idea, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, that was me. How would you suggest, or even if you can speak from your experience, how do you mend those fences with your kids, with your adult children? Maybe something happened when they were younger, or you read their diary. Some people were like, my mama read my diary in front of me and was laughing at me. Like, how do you, as a parent, maybe you like, dang, I sure did that to my kid. How do you fix that?
You know, I think communication works for all situations, honestly. And I can actually go back to an incident. Now, my daughter, this was my oldest daughter, and she was, I think at the time, maybe 15. No, she was about 16 years old when this particular situation took place. So we were having this big event for all the young ladies at the church. And one of the folks who were in charge of the event came to me and said some things to me about my daughter, some things that she said or did, or I can't remember what it was. But in you know, initially my first mind was to say, that don't really sound like my daughter. But, you know, I was always on that, but you can't put anything past, you know, your kids will do things. And so instead of going to my daughter and saying, hey, can we talk about this? Someone brought this to my attention. I want to talk to you about it. I came in with the, don't you ever disrespect and you blah, blah, blah. And I can't believe you did such and such and such. And I remember, you know, now this is one of my kids that's like 30, almost 36 years old. And she was like stunned that I was coming at her like that, because that wasn't typically how I did things, but I came at her full force. And I remember walking away because I was just like, you ain't going to do that. You're not going to put me out there making me look like I ain't parenting my kids, you know. And I remember she really didn't say anything. And then she went back and she wrote me a letter. Yes, she wrote me a letter that hurt me to my heart.
Wow.
Because, and it wasn't that she was hurting me. It was, I realized I had hurt her. And I realized that I didn't even give her a chance to defend herself.
Yeah.
I didn't give her a chance to speak on the matter. I told her what was what, and I walked away.
Yeah.
That's so
and
I do that a lot.
I was devastated that I did that to her. So let me tell you what I did. I went to her and I begged her pardon. I did. I went to her, and I know there are some parents out there would never do anything like that.
Yep.
You know, they would be like, I don't have to apologize to you. I'm the parent. I've heard that said before, and I totally don't agree with it. You know, but I went to her and I asked her forgiveness. And I told her, I really apologize, and I will never do that to you again, because I know what I raised.
Right.
I know what I raised. And that's never been your personality or your MO. I mean, she speaks her mind, don't get me wrong, but never, the way it was brought to me, she was completely disrespectful. And I had to go back to her and apologize. So I would say, to answer your question, put your pride down.
Yeah.
If you're guilty, you're guilty. If it happened, it happened.
Right.
So put your pride down and go and talk to your child. I promise you, the relationship with your adult child is so valuable, because you think about it, we're getting older. You know, these temples are wearing out. This 57-year-old body is a lot different from my 37-year-old body or my 47-year-old body. And so I know that one day I might need my children to assist me.
Yeah.
You know, now I don't ever want to just be a burden to them, but they may have to come and, you know, bring me a meal, and I don't want them to open the door, throw it in and close it. Because they mad at me for some things I did back in the past. I mean, that's real talk. You know, so I don't want that to happen. I want to maintain, I feel like I have a great relationship with them, and I've learned how to treat each of them as individuals. They're all different people, 4 children, 4 completely different persons, personalities, all of that. And I had to learn as a mom that it's not a cookie cutter situation.
Yeah.
So parents, go back to your kids and apologize for that mess. And be honest, you didn't know any better. That's the way you were raised.
Yep.
You know, and it's no excuse, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, parents, like you said, they feel like, oh, because I'm the parent, I don't have to do that. And so I noticed that even like, I know I have, my best friend, that happens a lot with her, and, her dad, they talk all the time, but I mean, she just sees the phone and she's like, oh God. And, even like my own experience, sometimes it's like, we get come at so wrong. And I don't think like, parents stop to kind of like reflect and just realize like, you were in our shoes once too with your parents and stuff like that. So yeah, everything you said is definitely valid. And the writing letters thing, I was like, wow, I do that too. And I feel like maybe it's, because a lot of times I don't get that room to defend myself before I get interrupted or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. Not saying from you, but just in general, like a lot of times I'll start talking and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Guess I gotta listen, even though, you just spoke for like an hour. That's fine.
Well, even for me, and to be totally honest and transparent, for me, I'm 43. I don't really speak to my parents. And it's not that I don't like my parents or don't respect my parents. There's sometimes a conversation is just not, it's, I don't know.
It's like if it goes bad every time, it's like a, when you notice parallels, it's like, why am I going to keep perpetuating this pattern? And I know it's going to be the same thing every time. If I know if I go on the street, I'm going to get a flat tire, and I do every time. Well, I'm not going to go on there no more. So I'm going to stop answering the phone because I know it's going to be a bad time. And every time I talk to you, we arguing. So maybe we should just not talk.
Right. So, or for me, it's just like, we're just going to talk about the weather.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. That superficial conversation type thing. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. So I get it. For sure. I agree.
I totally understand. No, and that's that, it's kind of like that saying, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And it's unfortunate that it's a situation like you're saying with a parent, I know that if I go over here and spend more than 30 minutes, it's going to turn ugly. You just don't want that. You just don't want that. So you avoid it. You avoid it. I get it.
Yeah. And it's sad. And I think something else that you said, Pastor Ervin, that's really important is, you know, oftentimes the way that we parent our children is a reflection of the way that we have been parented by our parents. And so the things we have to do is break that cycle. And I actually have a really close friend. Her name is Trina Green Brown, and she wrote a book called Parenting for Liberation, where it really focuses on helping parents, Black parents, raise liberated Black children. And one of the
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. One of the first things that she talks a lot about is forgiving yourself for maybe the things that you've done to your children that maybe, again, you didn't know, you did what you thought. Also forgiving your parents for how they parented you. Like, you know what? They didn't know, or they did what they thought was best. And I think for me, I always operate under the assumption that as parents, we always, for the most part, do what we think is best for our kids. And even though, and that best might be dysfunctional, it might be a little off, but it's because of our experiences and how we were parented. But ultimately, for the most part, right, there are exceptions. There are people that are abusive, yes. But for the most part, we are doing what we think is best. And it could be totally off, but it's what we are operating in the best of intentions. And it just sometimes just doesn't work out for the best for our kids. So, you know,
no, I totally agree with that. You know, it's funny you mentioned dysfunctional. The things that we do is dysfunctional. And I think early on in my marriage and in my parenting, that word dysfunctional was like a cuss word for me, because my idea of dysfunctional was like, you know, the family where the kids are tied up in the closet and, you know, they come to school with no food and their clothes are tattered, you know, that, you know, the father is beating the mom. That was the only thing I knew as dysfunctional. Yeah. But I learned differently that sometimes we all operate in dysfunction, you know, and I'll never forget the first time it really dawned on me that, hey, sometimes we're a little dysfunctional around here. My father-in-law, you know, said to my husband and I, one day he was talking to us and he said, baby, every family has some dysfunction. You know, and I was like, you're right. Yep. You're absolutely right. Every family has some dysfunction. And our dysfunction is sometimes the only thing that we know to be true about families. Mm-hmm. You know, you think about children who are abused from, you know, babies on up. And until they see something different, they don't know that they're being abused. They don't know that this is behavior that shouldn't be, you know. And so, yeah, that's very, very true what you guys are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get ready to wrap up this episode. And before we do, Pastor Ervin, any parting thoughts about relationships with, you know, as a parent with your adult children? What should we be telling parents moving forward? You know, just some parting thoughts on how we should encourage parents of adult children.
Yes, I do. One thing that I'm learning to do, and you notice I said the word learning, is to not offer my advice unless it's solicited. Ooh. And that's hard because sometimes you're sitting back watching your children tiptoe through life in areas of life that you know the end result. You know what that's going to turn into, you know, and it's not that you want your kids to, you know, fail or you want, you know, them to be sabotaged, but sometimes, you know, if you feel like, and first of all, you got to know your kids. You have to know who's who. So I know that there's this kid that I can go, that's not going to work out. And that child will catch it and be like, gotcha, mom, I'm good, you know. Then there's the other one who's needs to experience some things. And so I know with that child, either it depends on what the situation is. I can say, I'm gonna let this one, you know, I'm gonna let him figure it out. Or I'm gonna handle it like saying, hey, you know, I noticed this, but of course you're an adult and you need to make your own decisions. But, you know, this is how I see it, but that's not the only way to see it. So I try not to offer my advice if it's not solicited, you know, but the thing is, I'm so blessed in that my kids come to me quite often and solicit my advice, you know, and that's the blessing. But there are times we had just had a situation and I was telling my husband, I said, this is happening. I said, but I'm not going to say anything because this is going to come full circle. And it wasn't anything detrimental, but I knew it was going to come full circle. And I said, so I'm not going to say anything and I don't want you to say anything either. And he said, okay. And so sure enough, it came full circle and my child came to me and said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, wow, okay, that's great. You know, I'm glad you came to that conclusion. And, you know, and my husband was like, you said that was going to happen. Absolutely. Because I've been living this life and I've been age and I've experienced most of what you're going through. Now I can't say everything, but you know, I just know some things that are how some things are going to turn out. Everything in life is not completely different. I mean, 1 + 1 is still 2, you know, and the letter C comes after B. So that's a constant. Yeah. So I would say don't offer any advice unless it's solicited, unless you know that child is a kind of child that will receive it. Because sometimes you'll deter them from doing the right thing by telling them what they need to do. Because they're adults and they want to make their own decisions. Absolutely.
I think that's perfect. A perfect tip. And like you said, it's sometimes hard to, you got to catch yourself. But I want to ask Andrea, what do you want parents of adult children to know? And what do you want them to do?
I was actually going to say something similar to the not offering unsolicited advice, but I was going to say even just asking, like, do you want my advice or do you just want me to listen? Because sometimes, you know, like if I'm saying something, I'm not asking for that. I'm just want to talk. You know what I mean? Or I think a lot of people feel that way. And then I think sometimes when the advice comes, then people start feeling shut down. Like, oh, okay. Well, never mind.
Yeah.
You know, because it's kind of like, I didn't ask, have this, or maybe they already had it covered. Like, you know, I mean, because sometimes like you might have experienced the same thing of it went down the same road that I'm going down, but I'm not you and you're not me. I mean, I came from you, but you're not me and I'm not you. So I may have a handle on it or think I do or have a plan already. And so you telling me, well, you know, you shouldn't do this, or it's like, okay, can you just listen? Like, you know, so I think that's the main one is
you just helped me. Yeah. You helped me with that one. You know, you really did. Yeah. Do you want me to just listen or give advice? Okay, I'm putting that in my book. You know, I'm going to use that. Like,
I'm not the same person. A lot of like parents, like I know my dad's always like, you know, you came from me and, you know, he's very proud of that. And it's like, that's fine, but I'm also not you. So,
right.
Yeah.
You're your own person. You gotta let the kids experience stuff now. You about to walk into a fire. I'm not letting you walk into the fire.
Right. But again, I came from you. I'm not dumb. So I know that that the fire is there. You know what I'm saying?
I got emotional with that because I'm like, I'm not going to let you fall.
No. And, you know, but again, I'm smart enough. And I feel like, you know, you should have that confidence that I would know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think
I
just be wanting, like, dang, you know, faith. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, that's all.
And you know what, Andrea, honestly, I don't think it's that we don't think you guys are intelligent enough or that you don't have, that we don't have faith in you. I just think it is the nature of a parent to protect.
Yeah.
And even though it doesn't always come off the right way, I think it's just our nature to, if we, you know, if the baby is dangling on the edge of the bed, man, I'll fall on the floor. I'll scoop, you know, get up under that baby to catch him. I'll hurt myself.
Right.
You know, before I let that baby fall. And so it's a learning process for us too. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And there's like certain questions I feel like you can ask, or like if, you know, or, you know, you can even ask like, what can we do to fix, you know, there's ways you can ask the question, I think also, which is, you know, to make sure like, you know, if you see that happen and you're like, okay, so I see this, but can I give you this advice?
Right. Because I feel like you're walking into the fire. I feel like your toe is in the fire.
I think that's a nice way to put it.
Maybe that's the catchphrase. Sis, your toe, I think your toe is in the fire. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's kind of hot in here. I don't know. And then it's like,
it's a little warm.
yeah, you all right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do that. Be like, your toes looking a little hot, but I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah, I'm just
Right.
change course,
That's
but I'm
right.
just saying, you know.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
This has been an amazing conversation, Pastor Ervin.
Yes,
Thank
it
you
has.
so much for stopping by and talking with us about this important topic. And hopefully, you know, I'm sure there'll be other conversations that we can have
Yes.
around these topics. And again, we're happy to come on your show and talk.
Oh, absolutely. You will definitely be on my show. Just sitting here talking with you and your daughter really gave me an idea for something. You have a daughter, and I have 3 daughters, and I had a show with my daughters and my sister one time, and it was an amazing experience. And I think it would be an amazing experience for us to bring our daughters together and maybe share some information, and they can, you know, school us and let us know what is, you know.
So we don't know everything. We know a lot, but they also have an amazing point of view and way of seeing things that I think is amazing. So
I agree. Yes.
Yay. But thank you so much for stopping on by. We're going to go ahead and close out.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Pushing Through.
Watch us every first, third, and fourth Thursday at 6 p.m. on Pyro Media Network.
And remember, mamas, your responsibility to nurture the relationship with your daughter does not end at age 18.
That's
all right,
right.
y'all. Bye.
Bye.